Let's be honest, you've probably been told that if you love someone, you need to show it. Call him, text back quickly, be available, give more, try harder, prove yourself. But what if I told you every man actually wants you to detach? Not because he doesn't care, not because he doesn't want love, but because when you detach, when you stop clinging, overgiving, or sacrificing yourself for crumbs, something powerful happens. You become a mirror. You stop chasing, you stop explaining, you stop overperforming for his affection. And suddenly he's forced to see the real value in front of him. Because you've stopped begging to be seen. You see, most women confuse love with attachment. They think if they let go, they'll lose him. But detachment doesn't mean cutting off your heart. It means reclaiming it. It means, I love you, but I love myself more. When a man feels you emotionally detach, he wakes up, not to your anger or your pain, but to your power. And the truth is, he wants to feel your power more than your desperation. He wants to know you're with him by choice, not by fear, not by need, and definitely not because you're afraid to lose him. Men don't consciously ask for it, but they are drawn to women who know how to walk away, not women who threaten to. Women who actually can. That kind of energy, it's irresistible, because here's what detachment really says. I will give you love, but I won't beg for it. I will open my heart, but I won't lose myself in the process. I will be soft, but I will never be small. And guess what? That scares the wrong man, but it awakens the right one. See, when you're overly attached, you stop living. You stop breathing. You're waiting for the text, waiting for the attention, waiting to feel enough. And he feels that. He feels the pressure. He feels the emotional weight you've handed him. That's not love. That's control. And control repels connection. Detachment says, you are not the source of my happiness. You are a part of it, if you choose to be. It says, my life was full before you. It'll be full if you stay. And it will be full if you go. This isn't a strategy to get him to chase. This is the path to get yourself back. And in the process, the right man will chase. The wrong man will fade. And you'll finally stop trying to fix what's never been your responsibility. You'll stop feeling broken just because someone couldn't meet you where you were. You'll stop performing just to be enough. The moment you detach is the moment you reclaim your power. The power to walk away. The power to choose yourself. The power to stop bleeding for someone who won't even give you a band-aid. Remember, real love doesn't live in chaos. It doesn't thrive on fear. It doesn't require suffering. You do not have to abandon yourself to be loved. So if he starts pulling away, let him. If he doesn't appreciate your presence, show him what your absence feels like. And if you feel like you're chasing more than being chosen, detach, not to punish, not to test him, but to protect your soul. Because your peace is priceless, and any man who's worthy of your heart will feel the shift when you stop handing it away for free. He'll either rise or he'll run. Either way, you win. When it comes to relationships, there's something no one talks about enough, something that women often overlook, because their intentions are pure, their hearts are open, and they genuinely want to connect. But what if I told you that one of the most attractive things you can do in a relationship is to emotionally detach? Not in a cold or distant way, but in a way that sends a clear signal. I am whole, with or without you. And the truth that might surprise you is that most men actually feel safer when you detach emotionally. This might sound backwards. After all, aren't relationships supposed to be about closeness, intimacy, and emotional vulnerability? Yes, But there's a fine line between vulnerability and dependency. And often, what begins as connection turns into emotional overreach. That's when a woman starts needing constant reassurance, validation, attention, and suddenly the relationship begins to feel like pressure instead of pleasure. Men are not scared of love. They're scared of losing themselves in a relationship that demands more than they are ready to give. Emotional intensity, when it turns into emotional dependency, can trigger a man's deepest fear. The fear of not being enough, of not being able to give her everything she needs, of being the reason for her sadness, her stress, her instability. That's the moment he starts to emotionally withdraw, not because he doesn't care, but because he can't breathe. When a woman detaches, something shifts. She no longer expects the man to be her constant source of joy. She no longer needs him to make her feel secure. She's grounded in her own identity, her own rhythm, her own emotional center. And in doing so, she creates a powerful space that a man wants to step into, not run from. Men don't say this out loud. They don't come home and say, I wish you were more emotionally detached. That would sound cruel. But what they do say, or more often, what they show, is a kind of relief when the emotional temperature drops. When you stop trying to manage his every feeling. When you stop needing to talk about the relationship every other day. When you stop reacting to every shift in his mood or every delay in his reply. That's when he starts to relax. That's when he feels safe. This safety isn't about emotional distance, it's about emotional maturity. It's about knowing the difference between caring for someone and clinging to them. When you detach, you're saying, I trust you enough to live your life without needing to constantly manage mine. That trust builds freedom, and freedom is the oxygen every relationship needs. Think about it like this. Have you ever held something too tightly and watched it break? Maybe it was a fragile item, maybe it was a delicate flower, maybe it was even a conversation. The more you squeeze, the more it crumbled. That's what emotional intensity can feel like to a man. The tighter you cling, the more he feels the need to escape. But when you hold things lightly, when you let love breathe, that's when it grows. A man feels safer when you're not overanalyzing everything he says. When you're not making every action mean something about how he feels about you. When you can enjoy a moment without needing it to be a sign of where things are headed. This kind of emotional calm is rare. And when he feels it, he leans in. Because instead of feeling like he has to protect himself from your storms, he feels like he can rest in your peace. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you don't panic. It means you don't make someone else's behavior the center of your emotional world. And when you hold that energy, it's powerful. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop trying to convince someone to choose you. You already know you're enough. And the right person will see that without needing to be chased. Ironically, when you detach, men often start to show up more because the space you've created allows them to step into the relationship from their own will, not your expectation. It's not manipulation, it's alignment. You've created emotional space, and now he can move freely within it. He feels trusted, he feels respected, and more importantly, he feels drawn to you, not pressured by you. When you're too attached, you start monitoring everything. How long it takes him to text back, whether he seemed off this morning, whether he still feels the same. That energy is exhausting for both of you. And it subtly communicates fear of losing him, fear of being abandoned, fear of not being good enough. But when you detach, You radiate confidence. You're not waiting for something to go wrong. You're not trying to control the outcome. You're simply being. And that presence is magnetic. A man wants to know that he can be with a woman who has her own emotional core, that she can be happy with or without him, that her happiness is not his burden, but her responsibility. That's not just attractive, it's irresistible. So detachment isn't about punishing a man with silence. It's not about becoming emotionally unavailable or pretending you don't care. It's about reclaiming your emotional center so you're not dependent on him to fill your emotional gaps. And when you do that, you give him the freedom to love you, not out of obligation, but out of genuine desire. Because every man, even if he never says it, wants to feel like he's with a woman who doesn't need him to survive emotionally. He wants to feel like he's wanted, not needed. Like he's part of your world, not your entire world. That balance is what creates long-lasting attraction. That's what builds real connection. And that's why emotional detachment, when rooted in self-worth, is not only healthy, it's necessary. It gives both of you room to breathe, space to grow, and a foundation that's based on choice, not fear. It's not about being less loving. It's about being more whole. And that kind of wholeness is what makes a man feel safe enough to truly love you back. Emotional independence is one of the most powerful traits a person can bring into a relationship. It's often misunderstood as being distant or unemotional, but in reality, it's the opposite. It's about being so grounded in who you are, so secure in your own worth, that you don't need someone else to constantly reassure you of it. And the truth is, that kind of self-assurance makes you deeply attractive. When you're emotionally independent, you're not looking for someone to fill a void. You're not searching for someone to complete you. You're already complete. And from that place, love becomes a choice, not a need. It's a decision to share your life with someone, not a plea for someone to save you from your loneliness or insecurities. That energy is magnetic because people aren't drawn to desperation. They're drawn to self-possession. When you're constantly seeking validation, it communicates something very subtle but very powerful, that you don't yet believe in your own value. And when someone senses that, they may try to comfort you at first, but over time it becomes draining. Because no matter how much they give, it will never be enough. Why? Because validation given from the outside can never fill a void on the inside. But when you walk into a relationship already knowing your worth, everything shifts. You don't overreact to silence. You don't spiral over mixed signals. You don't panic when someone pulls away slightly, because you're not interpreting every change as a threat to your self-esteem. You already have that anchored. You're not fragile, you're strong. And that strength creates safety for both of you. The irony is, the more emotionally independent you are, the more space you give someone to come toward you. There's no pressure, no grasping, no need to convince them to stay. That creates freedom, and freedom is what allows real connection to flourish. Because when someone feels free to leave, but still chooses to stay, that's when love becomes real. It's not obligation. It's not dependency. It's choice. People often think that being emotionally available means being open about every emotion at every moment. But real emotional availability starts with knowing how to hold your own feelings without needing someone else to rescue you from them. When you can feel insecure without demanding immediate reassurance, when you can feel fear without needing someone else to fix it, when you can face uncertainty without falling apart, That's when you truly become emotionally available. Because you're not using your partner as a crutch. You're inviting them to walk beside you. Confidence in its truest form isn't loud. It's quiet. It's in the way you respond instead of react. It's in the way you take space without guilt. It's in the way you say no without over-explaining. And that kind of confidence is irresistible. It's not arrogance, it's calm certainty. And in relationships, that's rare. When someone is emotionally dependent, they often look to their partner for constant feedback. Do you still love me? Are you mad at me? Did I do something wrong? At first, it may seem endearing. It may even feel like closeness. But over time, it creates a dynamic where one person becomes the emotional caretaker for the other. And that's not love. That's emotional labor. That's one person carrying the weight of another's self-worth. Eventually, it becomes too heavy. But when you show up with emotional independence, you're saying, I'm here to build something with you, not because I need to be saved, but because I choose to grow with someone who adds value to my already full life. That's the energy that attracts people who are capable of real partnership. You're no longer trying to be chosen, you've already chosen yourself. You're no longer trying to win someone over, you've already won your own respect. And from that place, you stop settling, you stop chasing people who are unsure, you stop tolerating mixed signals, breadcrumbing, and emotional confusion. Because you know what you deserve. And you're not afraid to walk away when it's not being given. This doesn't mean you don't feel, it doesn't mean you don't love deeply. Emotional independence doesn't make you colder, it makes you clearer. You're not numbing your feelings, you're simply not enslaved by them. You can have a bad day without projecting it onto someone else. You can have a moment of doubt without turning it into drama. You can communicate your needs without making them demands. That balance is what makes emotional independence so powerful in relationships. The right person doesn't want to carry your emotions for you. They want to share them with you. But they need to know that you're capable of holding yourself too. Because in the moments when they're tired, distracted, or struggling, they need to know that your emotional world won't collapse because they didn't reply fast enough. That's not a burden anyone wants to carry long term. When they see that you have your own emotional structure, that you're not shaken by every wave, they feel safe enough to lean on you too. And that's where the magic happens. Two emotionally independent people come together not out of fear, not out of neediness, but out of genuine desire. They both know they're okay on their own, but they also know that being together adds something beautiful to their lives. That kind of connection doesn't just survive, it thrives. Because it's built on strength, not insecurity, on choice, not desperation. So never underestimate the power of emotional independence. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about knowing you'll be okay whether someone stays or goes. And that inner certainty, that quiet confidence, is one of the most attractive things in the world. In relationships, there's a natural rhythm to connection. Give and take, come close and pull away, speak and listen, pursue and receive. But many people unknowingly disrupt this balance by holding on too tightly. When you're emotionally attached, you chase. You seek constant reassurance, frequent contact, and unbroken closeness. You try to secure the relationship with words, effort, or presence. And while that might feel like love, it often feels suffocating to the other person. Especially to a man, this emotional intensity can create pressure instead of peace. Men often respond not to what you say, but to what they feel when they're around you. When you're constantly reaching, calling, asking, or worrying, it's not your words that overwhelm him, it's your energy. Even if your intentions are good, that kind of constant emotional pursuit sends the message, I need you to feel okay. And for someone who values freedom and autonomy, that can trigger the instinct to run. Not because they don't care, but because they feel they've lost their space. But when you detach emotionally, when you stop chasing, stop needing, stop trying to control the dynamic, you create a powerful shift. Suddenly there's space, and in that space something surprising happens. A man feels safe to come towards you, not out of guilt, fear, or obligation, but out of desire. That space is crucial because when you're always filling it, always reaching out, always initiating, you don't leave any room for the other person to wonder, to miss you, or to initiate on their own. Relationships need that space, not to create distance, but to allow pursuit, to let energy flow in both directions instead of just one. When you're the only one doing the work to stay connected, it creates imbalance. But when you pull back just enough to let him show up, you get clarity. You get to see who wants to meet you in the middle. Detachment isn't about withholding love. It's about allowing energy to rebalance. You've probably experienced what it feels like to be chased, even in subtle ways. When someone shows up consistently, checks in, respects your space, but is still present, it feels good. It feels light. You're not being smothered, but you feel seen. That's the experience you give when you stop overgiving and start allowing. When you stop emotionally clinging, a man has the chance to feel your absence. And that's not manipulation, that's reality. Because when someone is always present, always available, always initiating, we start to take that presence for granted. It becomes expected. But when that constant stream stops, it creates a moment of realization. She's not chasing me anymore. Do I want to chase her? That's when his true intentions become clear. And that's when the dynamic starts to shift. Chasing energy is exhausting. It drains your emotional reserves and erodes your confidence. It keeps you in a state of waiting for him to respond, to reciprocate, to commit. But when you stop chasing, you stop waiting. You start living. You reclaim your focus, your peace, your self-worth. You stop trying to manage the relationship and start observing it. In that stillness, you begin to see clearly. Who is putting in effort? Who is showing up? Who actually wants to build something? And who just enjoys being pursued? Sometimes detaching feels scary because you're afraid that if you stop trying, the connection will fade. But here's the truth. If it fades just because you stop chasing, it was never stable to begin with. A connection that only survives when you're over-investing is not a connection you want to keep. Let it go. Let it fall apart if it's going to. Better to know now than to keep propping up something that can't stand on its own. And if the connection is real, if there's a genuine bond and mutual interest, then stepping back will only strengthen it. He'll feel your energy shift. He'll notice the difference. And if he truly values you, he will begin to step in. He'll initiate more. He'll reach out, he'll pursue, because now he has the room to do so. People often say that what's meant for you won't pass you by. But the deeper truth is, what's meant for you will recognize your worth without you having to convince it. When you detach, you stop convincing, you stop persuading, you simply be. And in that stillness, the right energy finds you. Men are naturally drawn to what feels calm, confident, and emotionally stable. When you detach, you embody those qualities. You're no longer riding the emotional roller coaster based on what he does or doesn't do. You're steady, and that steadiness is incredibly attractive. It's not about playing games, it's about respecting the flow of energy in a relationship. Love needs space to move, it needs room to breathe. You can't always be the one pushing things forward. Sometimes the most powerful move is to pause, step back, and let the other person reveal their level of investment. Because when someone truly values you, they don't need to be chased. They want to come closer. They want to show up. They want to meet you halfway, or even more than halfway. But you'll never see that if you're always the one closing the gap. So create space, detach with peace. Let him come toward you. Not because you forced it, but because he chose it. That's how you build something real. That's how you stop chasing and start attracting. Detachment is so often misunderstood. People hear the word and imagine frost forming over the heart, a deliberate refusal to feel, a kind of emotional exile. But real detachment is nothing like that. It is at its core an act of self-respect, an understanding that your inner peace is too valuable to barter for temporary attention or half-hearted affection. It is not a wall built out of bitterness. It is a boundary drawn in love. Love for yourself first, so that any love you give away comes from a place of wholeness instead of depletion. Think about the last time you turned yourself inside out to keep someone close. You answered messages the second they appeared. You said yes when you wanted to say maybe. You rearranged your plans so they never had to rearrange theirs. It felt generous in the moment, but afterward you were left with that subtle, hollow ache. The one that whispers you just bartered a piece of your self-worth for a few crumbs of validation. Detachment ends that trade. It says, I am available for connection, but not at the price of abandoning myself. Self-respect is the compass here. It points you toward what feels expansive and away from what makes you shrink. When you respect yourself, you stop negotiating with behavior that demeans you. You no longer tolerate emotional breadcrumbs because you know you deserve the banquet. Detachment is how that respect translates into action. It looks like pausing before you reply, so you can check in with your own feelings. It looks like offering grace, but also enforcing consequence. It looks like stepping away when conversations turn manipulative instead of staying to prove how tolerant you can be. Some will say detachment is selfish, that it shows you care more about your own comfort than someone else's feelings. But it takes courage to honor your needs when the easier choice is to silence them. Self-respect does not harm another. It simply refuses to harm you. If someone is wounded by your decision to prioritize your mental and emotional health, what they truly resent is losing the power to compromise it. People comfortable with love based on reciprocity welcome your boundaries because it reassures them you will also respect theirs. Detachment is not indifference. You can still feel deeply, offer empathy, and invest effort. The difference is you place your emotional oxygen mask on first. Your happiness is no longer hostage to someone else's unpredictability. When a partner grows distant, you feel the sting like anyone would, but you do not sprint into self-abandonment to chase them. You sit with the discomfort, breathe through the fear, and remember that whatever lesson unfolds, you will still have you. That is self-respect in motion, trusting yourself to survive disappointment without betraying your dignity. Ironically, this kind of composure invites genuine intimacy. When you stop clinging, the space between you and another person fills with curiosity instead of pressure. They are free to approach because they aren't dodging your anxiety. Your calm presence communicates a silent promise. I will not imprison you with my expectations. I will enjoy you if you choose to stay. That promise makes people lean in. They sense the quiet power of someone who wants them but does not need them for wholeness. Imagine standing beside a calm lake on a windless morning. The surface is smooth enough to mirror the sky. Now, picture tossing a stone, your need for reassurance, into the water. Ripples spread, distorting the reflection. The more stones you throw, the more turbulence you create. Detachment is choosing to keep the lake still so both of you can see each other clearly. It's understanding that grasping and fixing only muddles connection. Serenity invites it. Self-respect also protects you from the illusion that sacrifice equals love. Popular culture romanticizes grand gestures of self-neglect, skipping meals to cook his, canceling dreams to support hers, swallowing opinions to keep the peace. Yet love cannot flourish where one person is wilting. Detachment reminds you that your desires, friendships, and ambitions matter. You can compromise on details, but never on dignity. Anyone worthy of your heart will be inspired, not threatened by that standard. There will be moments when honoring this principle costs you. You might watch someone drift away rather than rise to meet the level of respect you require. That pain is real, but it is momentary compared to the slow corrosion of staying and betraying yourself. Detachment hands you the bittersweet relief of knowing the truth sooner rather than later. It spares you the limbo of perpetual almosts and maybes. To practice it, start small. When a text comes in, pause. Ask what version of yourself wants to answer, the one anxious for approval or the one anchored in worth. When plans get cancelled last minute, decide whether rescheduling feels respectful or one-sided. When an apology feels vague, request clarity instead of accepting ambiguity. Each choice is a vote for your self-respect, a way of teaching others how to treat you because you've already shown yourself how. Over time, detachment becomes less of a technique and more of a temperament. Your nervous system learns safety is internal, not conditional on another's mood. Your conversations deepen because they're free of covert agendas. Your relationships refine themselves. Those rooted in convenience fall away. Those rooted in mutual regard thrive. And through it all, you remain intact, no longer sculpting yourself to fit someone else's preferences, but standing tall in your unapologetic contours. So detachment is not coldness. It is warmth directed first toward your own soul. It is the daily practice of declaring, I am worthy of consistent care, and I will give it to myself, whether others do or not. From that truth flows a love that is cleaner, steady, and infinitely more sustainable, because it begins and ends with self-respect.